Hi everyone, and welcome to the Practice Growth with Pras podcast. I'm your host, Pras Murthy, CFO and co-founder at Dr. Multimedia, where for the last 10 years I've been helping practices grow all across the country. We started this podcast so we could dive deeper into the issues around practice growth, from online marketing to the way you run your business. We know doctors are busy people and you don't have a lot of time to study these kinds of topics, so we're hoping this audio podcast makes it really easy to stay up to date with what's going around the country. We'll be interviewing top doctors, successful practice managers, and other experts in the field. Without further ado, let's get started. All right, and welcome everyone. Today I am very excited as we have a special guest here in the office. Before I introduce him, just wanted to let you know that he's been working on a very special project here at Dr. Multimedia, one unlike anything that we've ever done before, one there's been a lot of time and energy and planning put into, and we haven't really told anyone about it yet. So the sneak peek is going to happen here on the Practice Growth with Pras podcast. And in order to do that, we brought in Mark. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you. Afternoon, everybody.
Thank you for joining us, of course. So we can jump right into it as far as I'm concerned. You've been working on a top secret project called Doctor Academy.
Yes, sir.
What is it?
Basically, I'm creating a training platform for doctors and their practice and their staff nationwide. So one of the things that we've seen as a common theme is that a lot of doctors don't have time to really meddle with social media, learn all the ins and outs, post on a very frequent basis, and market to their audience as much as they would like to. So what we're doing is creating a platform to help them with all of that. So you can envision this like an online interactive style course where you'll see a breakdown of a whole bunch of different modules, everything from social media management to website and a whole bunch of other goodies in between to teach you step by step the fundamentals of managing your online presence in a very effective way.
And so what do you mean by teach? Is this actually a course? Is it a lecture series? Like what format is going to allow doctors and practice managers to learn?
Yep, it's an actual course. So you can imagine we'll have a teacher on the screen. You log into your portal for the first time. You can see all the different units and chapters that we have broken down by topic. So for example, if you wanted to learn how to create your website and what goes into a successful website, you could watch our first chapter, which will be on building your site for the first time. And basically it'll come across to you like a teacher mentor type of style. So we're going to break down all the essentials from the beginning of how to get your site up for the first time to the design of it, all the content, how things should be laid out, how to maximize conversions and get people to pick up the phone and call you and find you on the internet. So it's very much going to be interactive, teaching you in a step-by-step format how to be successful online.
Sure. Now, traditionally, those all sound like things Dr. Multimedia, does for their clients. So, what's the purpose or what's the idea behind teaching people how to do it? And as you said, doctors are busy people, so they don't have a ton of time. So, why are we taking the time to do this in an instructional format?
Yep. For a variety of reasons, I would say the main two. Number one being. As much as we would like to be on site with our doctors all the time, we simply can't do that. So there are plenty of moments where you have, for example, a birthday celebration or a new patient or a testimonial, something cool that happens in your practice that you want to document. Maybe you take a picture or a video or something like that, and you want to get it posted onto your social media outlets immediately. But if you don't yet understand how to properly post, how to target, use the right hashtags, create paid ads on your own to do something quickly on the spot, we want to empower you to be able to do that on your own. So our Dr. Multimedia agency can still do all of that for you if you want a fully hands-off approach. But for those moments where you want to take a little bit of that power back and do the basics yourself, simple posts, how to manage or respond to a bad review and turn it into a positive review. There are just certain things that it's easier to not always have to pick up the phone and call us and consult every single time. So we want to kind of do what's the best way to put this? Like a joint approach to this, where we can help you with the more sophisticated type things, SEO, paid ads, and the like. But for the basics of how to properly capture something and engage with your audience that you've been building over the course of months, we want to help you do that. So we can be in the picture or out of the picture as much as you like. It's now more practice driven. You can decide that. Basically, you just have another outlet or an opportunity to take some of that back into your own hands if you choose to do so.
Sure. So us as online marketers know that there are these kind of courses all over the internet.
Yes.
Basically anything you want to learn, someone will teach you online, especially if you have the time and the energy to watch hours and hours of video.
Of course.
So what is it that makes Dr. Academy special or different, where it's actually going to benefit our clients who could theoretically just watch these general materials themselves all over the internet?
Absolutely. So I would say that the biggest value add that we provide with Dr. Academy is that this is pulling on all of our experience over the past 10 years of business in the healthcare space. So yes, you can of course go teach yourself with YouTube videos or other paid courses out there how to market online in a very generic way. But for example, someone who's in, let's say, running an auto dealership, the way they communicate with their audience is going to be very different to how a healthcare professional will speak to their patients.
Sure.
So because we have so much of our experience in the healthcare space, we are combining all of that knowledge with our expertise in marketing, putting that together and simplifying the concepts for you to make it very targeted, very specific, and easy to follow for what you do.
Sure. Now, you've been writing this diligently
Yes.
for months and months now, and making adjustments as you go. And one thing I know about our audience is that doctors and related professions are such a unique subsect of kind of our population as a whole. What have you been learning, or how has this evolved as you've been working on the project? Because a lot of our competitors will put out a series of YouTube videos trying to educate people on online marketing, and they are the most boring thing, right, that I've ever seen, and they're not even particularly that helpful. So in trying to connect with our audience, what are some, it could just be a sneak preview, but what are some of the lessons you've learned or adjustments you've had to make to deliver this content to doctors?
Yes, I'd say the number one takeaway would be there's so much out there to learn. I mean, and it changes so quickly too. So the online world, even outside of healthcare, is very dynamic. You can learn something in the month of June, and then 3 months later, there's a whole new concept that comes out and overhauls that past strategy. So something I've learned is to basically filter the information and explain only what you need to know right now to be successful. We're not here to bombard you with an entire university-style course that'll take you 4 years to complete. Rather, this is something that you can knock out in a month or two if you're consistent with it and get the fundamentals down in a very clear, specific way so that you can be up and running quickly. So our approach is not to, give you the fire hose treatment to where you're overwhelmed and it's difficult for you to take action. Rather, with the style that we've chosen, you can take everything that you've just learned and implement same day, chapter by chapter, course by course.
Yeah, so and to me, that's extremely important because, when you think about our audience and you think about doctors have been through more school than anybody,
Yes.
right? So that's a given. They're used to studying. They're used to reading textbooks. But fundamentally, what they're studying doesn't change that fast. Like, while
Correct.
there are going to be medical advancements, the basics of the respiratory system are not going to differ from like 1985 to 1995. So largely speaking, what they're studying is, either considered to be fact or is very static, and then you kind of specialize and you go from there. So just even in the nature of learning, I know that our clients are, kind of bound to that philosophy or that methodology, to even to the point where when I'm interacting with them, sometimes it's hard for them to grasp that, there isn't a set answer, or we don't know what's going to happen, or you can't just pay X amount of dollars and get, result Y in terms of being number one on Google, that it
Sure.
is a more dynamic atmosphere. So to me, not just taking that approach when it comes to Doctor Academy, but also this idea of an interactive course, one that lends itself to updates and being able to revisit courses or to insert new topics. That's what's really exciting to me, because we almost need to train our listeners and train our doctors to understand, like you said, that this is a fast changing topic, that this is actually part of why traditional colleges and universities can't keep up. The amount of time that they need to write a syllabus, get it approved, implement it, test it out, whatever the content they've written about is already outdated.
Yes.
So if you think about wanting to study online marketing, yes, you can sit down on Google and you can, research certain topics, but you'll be reading some articles from 2015, some YouTube video from 3 years ago, one from 1 day ago. And to me, what a doctor would need is kind of this portal where they can at least put some trust and count on the fact that the curators of this material are taking all of that into account. And so I'm glad you brought that up, because to me that's unbelievably important, because there's so much noise out there.
Yes.
There's so much like half bits of information that people hear things and then they start trying to implement them and they're not really cohesive. So along those lines, yes, online marketing is something that can be divvied up into chapters, but also you want your entire strategy to be coherent, and you want there to be kind of a purpose, not just to your website, or your social media, or to your online reviews, but to all of those things.
Yes.
And make it easier to manage. So in the materials that you've prepared so far, what are some bigger themes or concepts that you could share, again, just as a sneak peek, you don't have to get into the whole thing, that might illustrate how you're able to teach these individual chapters and just what you need to know at this moment, but also make them part of a larger narrative of how things need to be done in order to be successful?
Yep, so a few parts to that. So as you just reiterated, because it's such a dynamic industry, we also have a dynamic course. So what you can expect once we release this later this year is that we can always add modules, change modules to stay current with this stuff. So that's very, very important. And we want it to be part of a larger narrative as well. So as I mentioned earlier, you could go teach yourself digital marketing on your own and try to find all the different websites and YouTube channels and piece it together on your own, but that's very difficult to do because there's so much to learn. So what we've done with the course is put it in a step-by-step fashion that makes sense. So starting with your website, going into social media, then into your reviews and reputation management, and so on and so forth. So it all ties together. So the large theme is that what you do on one channel should be done in a complementary way on all of your channels. So I kind of view the website, which is our first chapter, as the central hub. And from your website, people can send or receive emails, link their social channels, see your reviews, etc. So that your website is basically your digital and dynamic brochure to the world, but it also connects everything else. So people can, if they go to your website, they can then go to everything else that you put online or simply by searching for you. So we put all those themes together in a course in a way that they build upon each other in a way that it makes sense. And it really, I'd say the underlying theme is that everything you put out, you can, of course, delete posts and things like that, but it's very easy to still go into the archives of the internet and still see stuff you posted a year to 5 years ago. So in a way, it's, you treat everything as permanent. So that's for that reason, because when you post, people can see your, whatever you broadcasted, you want to take a lot of care into what you put out there. And so if you learn how to do it the right way consistently over time, to where everything builds and tells the same story to your patients, no matter how they find you, if you do it that way, you're for sure going to be winning on the web. But you don't want to, for example, come to Instagram and then go to Facebook and then your website and see totally different things in a way that's like, is that the same business or not? So it's that cohesive nature. Everything works together for your good or for your bad. We're teaching you how to use it for your good.
Right, yeah, I'm glad you talked about that, because, I mean, good marketing is just supposed to be an extension of what goes on within the walls of your practice. And social media and this idea of sharing and putting things out there is really also meant to just open up the walls so that you can share what goes on inside the walls with people, birthdays, cute cases, interesting success stories, the doctors' lives. So yeah, I think a lot of times people try to parse it out where, okay, I need to do this for my social media and I need to do that on the website and we need to do this in our local community, but there's in a perfect world, all of those are really just fluid and consistent. Mm-hmm. And so one of the challenges that my doctors share with me when it comes to that is the natural turnover of a medical practice's staff. So yes. Unless you're lucky, you're not going to get, a practice manager for 30 years or right. A technician or receptionist that stick around for 5 or 10. By nature, some of these are transient, style positions where people are working for you at different moments in their lives and then they're progressing. The same person might go from front desk to technician to, a physician assistant or dental hygienist. So these aren't like, C-level roles within a business where you can have some consistency, even though in a normal business those would probably be like C-level decisions, marketing strategy, budgeting, and things like that. So one of the things that I'm really excited about for Doctor Academy is that when it comes to turnover or it comes to adding to your staff or incorporating new people, one of the hardest things to do is explain to them, what's going on with your online marketing. Is really, if someone's been around for 2 or 3 years and has been posting on Facebook for 2 or 3 years, very difficult for them to impart that knowledge and experience to someone that just started last week and have any kind of consistency there. So yes. One of the things that, of course, like what you've been developing is going to allow is when you get a new person in the staff, you can literally put them through this marketing training, mm-hmm. and it will at least give them the same base that everyone else in your practice has when it comes to marketing, fundamentals. And now you're kind of operating from a common vocabulary, a common, set of ideas, even if they disagree with certain things in there, that, you can use that as teaching points. So mm-hmm. I see that to be a large reason why you wouldn't just like download a guide on social media posts and kind of distribute that around, because like you said, that's going to change, but also more than that, you want people to learn. So let's dive into that learning aspect of it. So I'm sitting there, I log into my portal, right? I've got my usernames, I've got my passwords, I've got a little bit of free time. So how is it that I'm really going to be a student of Doctor Academy? What are some things that are going to happen that are really going to expand my knowledge beyond, like you said, just watching a YouTube video?
Yep. What will really help is that it's interactive. So you're not just going to be sitting there watching a professor on screen for the next 8 hours of the month. Mm-hmm. We've broken them up into pretty small chapters, 30 minutes to an hour each, so you can knock out one a day. That way they're manageable chunks, and each one might pause after 5-10 minutes and ask you a question. Gets you to think a little bit, review the concepts that we just went over, and then choose an answer, whether it's true or false question, fill in the blank style, or you name it. We sprinkle those out to just keep you engaged, to help you tap into your own thought process a little bit. It's always easier to learn when you are a part of that experience. Mm-hmm, each chapter has quizzes at the end, which I've purposely made not super difficult because I want them to more help you review the concepts and reinforce all the themes that we went over, so that way you can walk away from them and really be confident in your ability to then go implement. So again, they're curated in a way that it tells a story. They all make sense together. They're bite-sized chunks. We got quizzes and interactivity built in. So the quizzes are at the end of every chapter, but the interactivity could be throughout your listening experience. And that way it gives you a little bit more of a personalized approach and a classroom-style interaction without being in a very boring classroom.
Sure. And I mean, it hasn't happened yet, and I'm sure you've been kind of tossing this around in your head, but ultimately, what are some ways you see this, being utilized? Like, do you imagine a doctor at 10 p.m. logging into Doctor Academy? Do you see the staff gathering around, during a half-hour meeting. What, in your opinion, what are one or some ways that they could actually, deploy this? I know it's going to take some time. There's got a lot of content in there. But give me some ideas. If I'm a doctor listening right now, where could I insert this in my daily or weekly routine? Because the hardest thing that you're talking about a staff member, you can't just say, here's the username and password, go study, right? They have to literally be dragged kicking and screaming sometimes through the things that you need them to do. So you do need it to fit into their regular workflow or into a doctor's regular life. So just as you've been writing this and brainstorming, what are some scenarios that have popped into your head?
Yes. So if there is an awesome doctor out there who wants to go through this him or herself, that's awesome. But that's not the intention that this was made for. Obviously, their specialty is dealing with patients and driving patient care and outcomes. So this is written for staff use more than anything else. And yes, the whole staff can train together, but probably not the most ideal because you have specific people in specific roles, back office, front office, other care coordinators, etc. So you also don't want to be wasting their time either when they have other responsibilities. So I'd say whoever you have running probably front office, or if you have a specific marketing person, just involve that group of people and go based on your own practice schedule. So if it's good to have them do 30 minutes before or after work or their lunch break, or if every day at 10:30 it's a very slow part in your office, maybe that's an ideal time for you guys to go study for a little bit. But you can set your own schedule. I recommend being very consistent though. So much better to have 1 or 2 people going through the course 30 minutes to 1 hour per day, rather than doing a huge dump of 4 hours on a weekend and then 5 days of nothing. We want it's designed to be for consistency cadence, so that way it's easier to learn. And again, it's learn, implement. That way, as you implement, you're building an online presence for yourself. So definitely go with the bite-sized approach consistently, with just involving the right people based on their schedule.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that great information. We've already, gone way longer than I thought we would in this sneak peek of Dr. Academy, but it is an important topic. It's something we're putting a lot of effort into, and we're really excited. So let's close on a couple of notes here. Obviously, this is practice growth with Pras.
Yes.
So how can Dr. Academy, fuel practice growth? Let's tie these together, as directly as we can.
In a huge way. So in today's day and age, word of mouth is still one of the, if not the principal way you get new patients into your practice. However, the lights of the yellow pages, or just people talking to each other and remembering phone numbers. I don't even know my brother's phone number anymore. Yep. It's all becoming digital and visual. So part of what this course will teach you how to do is not just make a pretty website for yourself, but how to make it effective for business use. And by business, I mean lead generation, really. Getting people to call you, fill out a form, request an appointment, refer a friend, and one of our chapters will be on incentives. So to encourage people and motivate them, not just tell them, to do those activities. So really, one of the other themes of this course is, yes, you're a great practitioner, and your staff supports you in that goal, but also you're a business owner at the end of the day as well. You want to get new patients to come in through your door, retain them over the long term, give them value, and really care for them in a memorable way. That way they choose you for life, not just one time and never again. So part of building an effective online presence is to really get people to pick up the phone and call you, to send that email, to connect with you on social, see what content you're getting out there, and build that relationship before they even walk in the door. So that way when they do walk in the door, they already feel like they know you, and that the experience you've built offline should carry nicely into the offline experience.
Yeah, I know I've been preaching that business owner mindset,
Yes.
With everything that we've been doing, trying to get people to adjust to that. So yeah, one more question along those lines. This is more of a hypothetical, but let's say there's practice A and there's practice B. Practice A continues as they have been doing for years and years. Practice B, signs up for Dr. Academy, puts their staff through it, starts implementing the tips and techniques and really understanding what's going on. For our listeners out there, let's, if you can fast forward as much as you want, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years down the road, what are some ways where Practice B is going to look and feel different than Practice A? So not so much like, they're going to have a wonderful website, they're going to have amazing lead generation, a little higher level than that. How is that practice going to start to drift apart, from Practice A, who just sticks with status quo? And, how do you foresee a lot of what you're teaching in Doctor Academy playing itself out over the long run?
At the end of the day, it's all about being looked upon as the expert in your field.
Absolutely.
So for example, everyone starts at the bottom. You got to work to, get to the top. I'm not a huge fan of competing. I prefer to teach people to dominate. Mm-hmm. Why not be number one? Someone may already be number one or not. Either way, you can still claim that. So if you spend all those years in school to go care for patients and improve their quality of life, why not do it in the biggest, best, and most impactful way possible? And the way you do that, or a part of the way you do that, the part of the puzzle, is to be known. Right? If you're an obscure dentist, no one knows about you. You might be the best dentist within a 100-mile radius, but if no one knows who you are, it doesn't really matter. So anyone who signs up for Doctor Academy and goes through all the units and implements what they learn will start to position themselves as the leading experts, because the content that they produce will be valuable. People will see it, they'll interact with it, and they'll start to trust you more. And it's all about building that layer of trust.
Absolutely.
Because I can go, if I'm experiencing some knee pain, I could go look that up online, potentially diagnose myself, probably incorrectly, from some random guy's blog who sounds credible. Or I can go to an actual specialist who I found because they stood out, right? They ranked well on Google, which we teach you how to do. They had a very attractive website, and all the knowledge I know to properly understand my condition, with all the ways I can contact and interact with them and get in touch. All those things come together to basically highlight you as the expert and the guy I should trust to take care of my situation. If that made sense.
Yeah, it makes more than sense. That's awesome. I didn't really know where you were going to go with that question, but I'm glad that that's the direction you went, because, when I'm looking ahead to the future of online marketing, I think that's really simply where local businesses are going to be. The savvy local business owners are going to use all these media techniques available to them for cheap now. They used to be reserved for television commercials and radio ads. They're going to get their brand and themselves out there in an effort to become the local expert. You're not. Correct. This isn't a national scale or even a large metropolitan scale. You're talking about neighborhoods. Or you're talking about a couple mile radius around these practices, and you just have to be the expert in that area.
Yes.
And you're going to get a lot of business, by virtue of that, directly or indirectly. I mean, that's what we're doing literally right now, is we recognize the importance of that, and so now we're taking all the expertise that we've had, in this office for a decade and starting to share it with anyone who wants to listen, because we know that positions us as leaders in our field, regardless of who's actually leading the field, right? It's who you know and who you're familiar with and who you're comfortable with. So that's why we're doing what we're doing. And if doctors can kind of see through all the steps and the work along the way and can kind of have that end goal in the back of their head, that's going to be phenomenal, because I agree, that's exactly where we're pushing, or where they should be looking. And then, of course, the question is, well, how do you do that? How do you go about doing that? And then all of the answers line up. Well, you need a good website, and you need great social media, and you need to have good reviews, and you need videos, and you need content, and you need people coming through the door. And the list goes on and on. You need good sales. And so, I think that's a phenomenal recap of a place to start. So, Mark, I thank you for taking a quick break out of the hours of writing.
My pleasure.
That you've been putting into it. I've seen some of the sneak peeks of the layout, the format. It's all really cool to see, crystallizing in front of us, and I think we're a lot closer to launch than anyone realizes when you look at what steps are left. And it's been many hours of conversation and thinking and writing, and so we're really excited. I'm glad we could bring you on. And I was just expecting our listeners to get a sneak peek. Gosh, I feel like we really kind of blew the lid off there and gave them really everything that's going to be inside. But for a good reason. I mean, if you want to grow your practice, there are so many things you need to be doing on a daily basis, and there literally isn't time in the day for all of it. So, right. Our clients, our practice owners, even after employing us, still need a resource like this. Mm-hmm. I can't even imagine what doctors who don't have a solution in place and are either doing it themselves or piecemealing it together, how they're making sense of anything. So I know they need it.
Right.
I can't wait to kind of get some initial feedback and response. So yeah, once again, Mark, thank you for joining us. This
Absolutely.
Has been great. We'll bring you back, of course, as this thing actually launches, and we can talk a lot more specifics than we were able to today. But yeah, thanks so much.
Until next time, y'all. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Practice Growth with Pras. I'm your host, Pras Murthy, and if you have any questions or comments, please visit us at drmultimedia.com. Also, be sure to like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're constantly sharing new content as part of our mission to take online marketing topics and make them relevant to your practice. And if you like what you heard, please tell a friend and leave us a review on Apple Podcast or Spotify. Thanks so much for listening, and we can't wait to do it again.